Fishery rules, folks. Now, this is something, we turn up at a fishery, and you're like me, Lee, you travel to a lot of different fisheries all over the country, and I sometimes haven't got a clue what the fishery rules are until I get there, because it seems to change wherever you go. There's obviously a few generic ones, barbless hooks, you know, you've got to use fishery pellets. Some venues you go to, you can use any pellets.
Sometimes you read it on the website, Rob, and you get there and it says something different.
And it's totally different, yeah, I know. So, fishery rules. Do we think, and this is something for you guys to get involved in as well, because in the comments below, just you tell us your opinions. Do you think there's too many fishery rules? Do you think there should be a standard set of rules? What's your opinions? Because we'd love to know, and obviously get a bit of a view from everyone, a bit of a broader view.
Can I lead? Can I lead with a standard set of rules, right? I'm going to say, let's talk about the standard set of rules.
No floating baits.
Hang on. Before we talk about what they are, should there be a standard set of rules? Well, no, because the rules in your house are set by you.
Different.
The rules in my house are set by me, right? Obviously, in my house, I don't get the TV remote or anything like that.
No, I don't. Yeah, but I don't get the TV remote either.
But the rules in your house are yours. So if you've got a fishery, the rules in your fishery are yours. So should there be a generic set of rules for all fisheries? No, that's that. However, if there was a general set of rules that a fishery could simplify their own problems by adopting, by saying, we've got the generic fishery rules, I think we should talk about those.
Okay.
Because, and I'm not advocating for 1 second that a fishery should do
I remember
this,
the UK champs. The UK champs did a generic set of rules for all 4 rounds of the UK champs. So Woodlands View, prime example, ground bait isn't allowed at Woodlands View. But for the UK champs, it was allowed because there was this generic set of rules for all the venues. The fishery
signed up to,
the fishery said, listen, UK champs, so we understand that the anglers come in and fish in the UK champs for that one match of the year are a good level of angler. So they shouldn't be making silly mistakes, shouldn't be using different rigs that are wrong.
They're not going to have 10 kilo ground bait.
Yeah, they're not going to have 20 kilo ground bait. They are, you know, they've got a brain. So they were allowed a standardised set of rules. So Woodlands View, I think Lindome was a venue.
I think it adjusted a little bit, didn't it, over time?
Yeah, and then it went on. But there was a general set of rules, and it was nice to know that you could fish your way, and you signed up for that competition thinking, I can fish my method at every single fishery, rather than going somewhere worried about
a classic example of a venue with practically no rules is Barston.
Yeah.
So Barston, it's apart from barbless hooks, which I think if we're all putting a rule down, barbless hooks, it's a free-for-all in terms of what you can do. Okay, so that's great. I'm gonna say, let's do this. Let's have the comment below in the section. Comment below. I want to know if you had a fishery rule. If you had a fishery, would you give us a key rule? Give us a key rule for your fishery, because that's what I want us to do, Rob. Let's say we don't want to go nuts, do we?
No.
We're going to
set this
imaginary set of fishery
little
rules.
set of fishery rules.
Edge rules.
The edge rules that fisheries can use, and then bolt on a couple of their own rules around it.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, first of all, we've got barbless hooks, haven't we?
Barbless hooks has got to be in there.
Yeah.
I think you've got to have no floating baits.
No floating baits. Now, why should that be a rule?
Because, and I love fishing floating baits, by the way. I used to go on some matches, and I used to bladder chum mixers everywhere and fish chum mixers on a pole, and it was fantastic fishing.
Yeah.
But when those floating baits drift into someone else's peg,
yeah,
it can hinder their day. So anything that hinders someone else's day.
Yeah, that's true. And I also think once the fish are feeding on floating baits, you're done.
Yeah, maybe. But that doesn't matter. I think that's the same as when you put maybe Blue Worm Joker in.
It could influence other people's pegs.
Yeah, I think it's because it's influences their pegs.
So you're going with barbless hooks, no floating baits. I'm going to chuck in free running setups. Right?
Oh, right.
Now,
okay.
I believe, this is just my opinion. I love an elasticated feeder, by the way.
Okay.
I've got no problem with an elasticated feeder. However...
Personally, you've got no problem. As an angler.
Exactly.
Okay.
However, I think if I was doing the generic...
If you love your fishing and you love your fishing videos and you want to get better at fishing, there are 2 places where you can watch all the detailed fishing videos we produce. First of all, the website, www.anglingedge.co.uk. Masses of detail in these videos. You get, when you sign up, all of the new videos and all of the old videos. There's a method, a tactic, a venue for everybody there. Plus, you now get all of that content on YouTube. You can join, click that button just there, join our membership. There you get all the same content, all those new videos, all those old videos. You'll learn loads, because along the journey, we've learned loads too.
Generic set of fishery rules, I believe that your feeder...
This is generic set of fishery rules or match rules?
Match rules,
okay,
which are applying to fisheries. That's why you're using barbless hooks.
Okay, yeah.
Because if not, I'd use a barbed hook. I would say a free running feeder. And I would adopt that in the fact that I'm trying to put my conscience out there for fish tethering around feeders. However, in my whole entire life, I have never caught a fish with a feeder attached to it. I've caught fish with hooks still in their mouth, but I've never caught a fish, and barbless hooks, by the way.
This is an interesting conversation, another topic. We'll just go off on a little bit of a tangent.
Yeah.
Because I think I wrote a little bit of a piece as well about inline versus elasticated feeders.
Yeah.
And my theory is that, and take this, we've talked about this before in other subjects, that no one wants to leave any tackle in the water whatsoever. No. But we're going to crack off. We're going to crack off our line, and we're going to crack it off at the line clip.
Some of us more than
I mean, when I was 12, I might have lost a feeder, but I don't think I can remember
12 days ago, or...
so we're going to crack off. We're going to leave 20 metres of line out in the water.
Somebody is, yeah.
Yeah, somebody's going to leave, and that happens. We're going to do it with an inline feeder, so that line is going to pull through the feeder.
Yep.
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 20 metres of line in the water.
Yep.
We're going to do it with an elasticated feeder.
Yep.
So that fish is carrying around an elasticated feeder plus 20 metres of line. Now, my thinking was that at least with a barbless hook, and we've watched the specimen videos where the shake use the weight of the lead to shake the hook out of the mouth. My theory was that with the inline feeder, he's literally got nothing, no weight whatsoever to shake his head and get rid of the hook. But at least it's a bit more comfortable just dragging the line around. There is a chance that with the elasticated feeder, he has got something, he can go into a corner, shake his head, and then there's a chance he can get rid of the feeder. That was my theory behind it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So,
I appreciate what you're saying.
I don't know.
So are we...
knowing.
Are we room 101 in free running rigs?
I don't know. That's something that, again, untested, but that was just my theory. Where having watched these carp anglers and these carp underwater pick up bait and then use the weight and they shake the head and disappear. So I don't know about this inline.
You could be right, because I mean, I everywhere I've been elasticated feeder fishing, like I say, I've never caught a fish with a feeder in its mouth ever, and I don't know if the fisheries have got any reported issues with tethered fish. But I mean, it's one of those, isn't it? I suppose without the
I think it's angler usage as well. You know, if you've as we were talking about these UK Champs style rules, they were good anglers, so. You haven't got to necessarily make a lot of rules for anglers that sort of are experienced.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but
if there's an inexperienced angler using a method feeder in the wrong way, then there's a problem, whatever setup they're using.
Exactly, I was going to say, regardless of it being free running or not, because they might have £50 line on.
Yeah.
So while you're at it, do you set a line strength limit? Of course you don't. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So you've got that sort of balance.
So we're going barbless hooks, no float baits. I understand the inline feeder. I do understand the inline feeder, and I think I would probably say no fixed rigs.
No fixed rigs.
Because that counts. That also comes up with the guy that maybe wants to cast a bomb or cage feeder out, and it's not fixed.
No fixed rigs.
It's not fixed. Yeah. So I do think that helps. I think it also maybe promotes nicer fishing. Maybe
I will say, I love a fixed rig. I've got no issue with.
Yeah, I've not got any rigs. I want to catch fish.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Would you go with line length limits between poultry and float?
No, absolutely not.
Would you say you have to use a float?
No.
So you line straight through.
Yeah, I tell you why.
No shot rigs. Yeah.
I tell you why.
No float rigs.
I'll never forget. I went to Lindome. This is 10 years ago, right? And there was a craze. I'm sure there's a name for it, right? And I don't want to. I know the name for it. But it was a length of line.
No float rig, yeah.
Right, length of line this long, right? And they had a shot on the rig. Yeah. And all they were doing, Oasis had only just opened, and basically people were shipping out down the middle, and they were going like this, tapping away with this length of line.
And the poultry was going.
And I was trying to fish with me float, dead nice, and I got absolutely destroyed, right? And I remember thinking at the time, that guy has fed no bait into the lake, nothing, and he has caught all the fish. Do I want that as a fishery? Do I want my fish being caught and starved? I don't know if I do. But then I thought, just like anything else, right? In 6 months' time, you won't be able to catch on that rig, because when you start doing that with that rig, the fish will go, seen all this before, mate. We need to do something different.
And it only works for maybe 2 months of the year anyway, when the water's warm and they're catching shallow.
Absolutely. And there isn't anything to say that now if I've refined my shallow rig at different times, I can still beat that person. So for me...
And it's great for that person to come and beat Lee Carey on the next peg.
Absolutely.
It keeps him coming.
Absolutely. As far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't have any limits on lengths of line, depth you can fish, provided you weren't on the surface. Float your pole to my heart consent.
60 metres limit?
Would I have a pole limit?
I would.
That's interesting. Now, that's a different question.
I would, because I'm all for opening it up to a broader amount of anglers. And I think, especially for a lot of commercials, I don't think, with the age getting higher and higher, I don't think many guys want to come and...
So why is it 16 metres then?
I'd even bring it down, but I think 16 metres is great, because obviously manufacturers create a 16 metre pole.
Yeah, I believe that most people are buying a 16 metre pole. So for me, I would agree with that. I think it got silly when people were floating poles and using 3 or 4 bits of pipe pipe tubing, and pushing it out to a 20 metre island and shipping it back. There was a period, and I'm going to say it's probably, I think fishing, I'm going off topic here, but I think 10 years ago, 15 years ago, fishing was in a weird place.
It was. I was floating poles, I was fishing floating baits. I was like, and your pellet wagglers were as big as that.
Now, the general commercial angler is much more rounded.
You're fishing a lot nicer, you're fishing
Everybody's fishing
candles,
a lot
remember
nicer.
candles?
Yeah,
chucking the candle out, yeah.
And one thing I think that happens with all these things, and I've said this before just now, when you're doing this, fish get used to what you're doing. So methods come and go. So for me, would I allow the pole to be floated? Yes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a line length limit or the floating of the pole or anything like that. And I would say to those people, if you want to come and beat that, be my guest. Yeah. That's effectively what, you know, come and beat me or not. You know what I mean?
So what are we saying then? Braid? Would you allow braid?
Yeah, I would, yeah.
You'd allow braid. Paste? I'm just thinking of all the rules.
So let's talk about bait.
Yeah. Fishery only pellets?
Fishery only pellets is a very interesting one, right? So, for example, a topic of conversation would be, in my opinion, meat and trout pellets, right? Is it coincidence? Is it coincidence that in the last 3 or 4 years we are seeing better and better catches at these places where high oil pellets and trout and meats are banned? Is it coincidence that Lindome is fishing better than I have ever known it? Has he got more fish?
I just think everywhere is fishing better. But I do think by feeding less of those higher oil baits into the water, you can promote a slightly better water quality, which means you can maybe stock a few more fish and a few extra mouths into the lake.
If I give you a meat feast pizza,
beautiful, yeah,
right, but in your full, you're struggling, right?
I'd keep going. Meat feast pizza's beautiful, isn't it? I wouldn't eat the crusts. I'd go and have another pizza, but
my point is, if you've got something that isn't as full-bodied as a meat feast pizza, you're still hungry, right? And I think that fish look healthy in these fisheries, but they are also hungry, which is helping catches. So for me, I actually don't have an issue with meat and oil-based baits being banned.
Okay.
So
I think it's good for water quality. I do say that if I had a fishery, I'd be really concerned about those baits going in.
I would be.
Yeah. So
and the trouble is, you can't limit them, Rob. So if you say you're only allowed a pint of meat,
I hate limits, by the way.
Yeah, I agree.
It. 2 tin limit, and you still get a guy who's got a 3-pint bait tub and it's mushroomed up with meat.
For me, is no limits. I would just there would be no limits on the bait. It's effectively the bait that I can introduce.
So no meat, no cat meat, no trout pellets.
And no high oil pellets.
Are we saying fishery only pellets?
If that controls the no trout pellets, yes.
But, and this is maybe another topic for another day, the fishery only pellets have got to be cheaper or the same price as shop bought pellets.
How about if you were doing a dream scenario And I know every fishery out there makes money from fishery pellets. So we don't have to hide that fact. Fair play to everybody. They're running a business.
Yeah.
They are running a business.
But they're obviously controlling what bait goes in, but also making some money off the
Fishery approved pellets.
Yeah.
is if I'm talking about the dream set of rules. Fishery approved pellets.
What, that you can buy from the shop as well?
You can buy them from the shop.
Okay, yeah.
You can buy them from the tackle shop. So effectively, a fishery approved pellets is going to be a low oil Screttons or Coppins pellet.
Imagine if a company, Lee, was to put on their bag
Fishery approved pellet.
and they'd get a few fisheries to say, do you approve this pellet? And then they could put it.
Fishery approved
Wouldn't it be
pellet,
amazing?
absolutely, yeah.
It's just being a product
But I totally understand. If I was a fishery, if I'm going to sell control pellets, I'm getting good water quality. I know exactly what my fish are eating, and the turnover of my business is increased. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah,
why wouldn't you do it?
So hang on, I'm just thinking, method-wise, we haven't really got any rules, have we?
No, I don't.
Barbless hooks.
But we've got, for me, I've got barbless hooks.
No floating baits.
No floating baits. No high oil pellets or meats.
Are we allowing bread to be used as long as it sinks?
Yeah, bread's no problem provided it sinks.
We're not limiting anything, are we? We're not limiting ground bait.
I don't see why you're limiting ground bait or anything like that.
Here we go. Roll back the years. 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Paul Newell turns up.
Yeah.
With 2 buckets of bread or 1 bucket of bread.
Yeah.
It's all soaked up. It all sinks. Are we saying that on a big water, knock yourself out, Paul, but maybe on a smaller water, if he does that, and you've got to think of the knock-on effect when 3 or 4 other guys start doing it on a small enclosed lake. Have you got to start looking at it? Is that where we're saying, well, then you've got to do venue-specific rules on top of this?
I think the no bait limits. If I was doing the generic set of fishery rules, I would have effectively no bait limits. And then, if I was adopting the rules and I was tunnel bound, where my actual water size is smaller, and I was concerned that 5 kilo ground bait a man is ruining my water quality, I think I would have to go, I'm sorry guys, either I'm banning this or I'm limiting it.
Or you could even say, listen, ground bait's banned from April through to whenever.
Maybe. That's a good point.
You could do that sort of thing.
But personally, we're here at the fantastic Hayton Lakes today,
big
the water's
waters,
big, there's a lot of fish.
Yeah.
I would be, apart from those 2 oily baits, which by the way is not even banned here.
No.
I would be using.
I think it's one of them, but you have to almost like just keep an eye on and just think, is this going to cause an issue?
Yeah.
But I think you start off with
I'll
those.
tell you what I wouldn't be stopping my anglers doing. Bringing 20 tins of corn.
No.
Because if they want to bring 20 tins of corn and my fish are eating it, great.
Brilliant.
Sounds fantastic to me.
Because it saves me a job when everyone's gone home and I need to feed my fish.
Absolutely.
Roy at the Glebe, and I always say the Glebe's a fantastic venue. He makes sure that after the match you chuck your bait in the water. He wants you to feed the fish after you fished. He doesn't. A lot of places insist on not putting the bait in. He wants you to chuck it in.
Here's your rule then. Bait is after a day's fishing. Excess bait not to be thrown in the water is something that I am a believer in.
Is it?
Yes, because
you don't want to accustom them fish to feeding late.
I don't want to accustom the fish to feeding late. I also don't want excess bait in my lake. So I don't want somebody who's got. I mean, I've done it, Rob. I've got my plethora of baits, and it looks fantastic on my side tray. And the match finishes, and I put it all in my bucket. And I've literally got
half a bucket for
more, 3/4 of a bucket of ground bait and pellets and soaked casters, and
you go, hey!
and I don't. I take it home and put it in the bin.
Feed the kids,
right? Well, if they're lucky, on a Friday, and I put it in the bin. So what I don't want is 20 people chucking that in my lake. So I'm adding to it.
But again, massive lake. If it's a massive lake, there's no problem with that, is there?
Yeah, but what I've seen done in those places is bait bins. Whereby they go, we've got some bait bins here, lads. Chuck your bait in it, and we'll feed the fish.
Yeah, okay.
Right, and that's a choice of the fishery. So I'm saying no excess bait
on your fishery.
Outside, I'm saying the generic fishery rules.
Okay.
No excess bait to be thrown in the lake.
If the fishery wants to put a bin there for you to put your bait in,
that's up to them.
But you don't want it going into the lake.
And we're a few rules: barbless hooks, no floating bait, no oily bait.
Is there? What I'm thinking of another method-based rules. Maybe, obviously, you guys don't have a thing. Put it in the comments. But I don't believe in massive amounts of rules, and I also don't believe in fishery owners bowing to angler pressure. You know, when you get someone turn up and they win maybe 2 matches fishing, whatever it could be, they might turn up with 4 or 5 pints of casters, and a couple of the other, you know, a few of the anglers don't really want to start spending money on casters, or it could be he's got a brand new feeder that he's catching loads of fish on, and all of a sudden they want feeders banning. And it's always turf-free anglers that maybe have a moan to the match organiser or the fishery owner. I think the fishery owner's got to stand strong. So no, let this angler have their little run of results on their method. You will get your turn again.
You can. I think a great example, I'm sure they won't mind us mentioning it, is Lindome Lakes, because Lindome Lakes went through a period of time where a rule would come in, lash limit on your float, no casters, for example, 16-metre poles.
Now they've just gone knock yourself out, haven't they?
Right, and it got to a point where they had so many rules that people actually, every time there was a rule, it isolated 2 or 3 people.
Just for gardening and getting in the water.
Yeah, okay.
Because obviously we're talking.
Okay, so it isolated 2 or 3 people, and as it did that, obviously less and less people wanted to be there. I want as many people there as possible, and Lindome Lakes have gone full circle and gone, do you know what? All of that is scrapped. We've gone too far. Guys, bring and fish how you want, and they've got a very basic set of fishery rules, like barbless hooks, etc.
The less,
which is almost what we're saying. Yeah. So go on then, gardening. Are you?
I'm saying gardening, yes, you can garden if you want.
Yeah.
No cutting of trees, but you can cut reeds and stuff like that down.
Yeah.
Because as a fishery owner,
maintenance is the right true on.
Maintenance is a pain,
You
and
can
obviously
cut
it all grows back. Yeah, but obviously some trees are beautiful. We've got a lovely Christmas tree here. I don't want you to cut the Christmas tree down.
What I'll be saying is you can't cut the main body of the tree.
Yeah.
You can trim back branches of the tree, and you can trim back. I mean, for example, here where we are
marsh
today,
grass here and all
I
this
can't
stuff
see
behind.
down the edge.
No, you want to cut it down.
So what I would, if anglers were controlling that, then obviously it would give me more flexibility.
I think so,
Yeah.
but you cannot do anything under the surface of the water.
What we're saying? Oh no, you cannot break the water. No, absolutely.
Because we've just had something in a local fishery near me, no raking. So obviously anglers were raking underneath, and they were making the bottom nice. And I think you've just got to.
You've got to accept that as fishing.
That's fishing.
I think
gardening, allow some gardening.
And if there's some line or something in the water, so some sort of like debris in the
pull
water,
it out,
you can get rid of the line, or you say to the fishery, listen, there's a load of line in the water.
The other way of doing things, and this is I don't really like this way. It can work really well if it's managed. Is to say no gardening whatsoever, but the fishery has to make sure that everyone's on an even playing field there.
Yeah.
I've been to places where it said no gardening. Belingi, where Whiteacres bought it in at Belingi a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I felt, okay, that's fair enough. And I drew my peg, and I was looking down my margin, and the margins at Belingi are where you catch your fish. That's where you catch your fish. I looked down and I thought, there's not a chance I can get in my margin without cutting all these reeds back.
Yeah.
And I looked opposite halfway through the match, and I'm not too sure it was an angler opposite. He's got this beautiful cut back bit of bank, and he's catching fish after fish. And I just thought, this no gardening rule's great, but the fishery needs to make sure that everyone is on the same playing field if they're going to do that. The fishery needs to cut the pegs how they want it to be cut out, and not leave someone at a disadvantage because they've not got the margin or whatever they want.
We've got there, respectful gardening is allowed.
Yeah, but are anglers going to take it to the
limit?
limit?
Well, if anglers, listen, with any rule, you've still got to police it. Yeah. The idea is you're policing your rule.
I think gardening. I just think you say gardening is allowed, but don't cut trees.
Whatever you
get
do.
The shears out.
Yeah, don't get.
I love getting the shears out.
I love getting the shears out.
I chop all this down.
Oh, it's just long gone.
All gone. All the mice and all the little birds. They've got no home left. Gone. So there you go. Simple rules.
Yeah,
simple rules.
Yeah.
Simple set of rules. That's what we'd love to see. Let us know below what you'd love to see.